No plumbing, no privacy, and definitely no flushing. The streets stink of sweat, wine, and human waste. The public toilet is just a stone bench with holes. And the sponge on a stick? Yeah, it's been used before. Tonight, we are diving, head first into a world that was brilliant, brutal, and filthy beyond belief. A world where empires rose, but basic hygiene fell short. Because ancient Rome was magnificent. Marble temples, gladiator games, aqueducts, but behind the glory was a daily grind of smells, sickness, and struggle. Forget the Hollywood version. This isn't toga parties and polished palaces. This is the raw, unfiltered truth, how real Romans lived, relieved themselves, and somehow thrived. So, before we open the sewer gates of history, hit that like button and subscribe. If you dare to see civilization without soap, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from? And what century is it over there? I love seeing which corners of the empire we're reaching. Now, hold your nose, steady your stomach, and step carefully, because you've just landed in the heart of the Roman Empire. And Rome? Rome doesn't care if you're squeamish. Let your body rest. Feel the surface beneath you. Soft, stable, safe. The room around you has grown still. Maybe the glow of a distant lamp flickers gently across your wall. Perhaps it is quiet, or maybe rain taps faintly against a window pane. Either way, the world has slowed its rhythm now, and so have you. You are ready, not just to drift, but to dream, to wander into another time, another world, far from your own, a place long past, a place that moved to a slower beat, a world without plumbing, without electricity, without the quiet hush of ceramic tiles and porcelain thrones, a world in which people lived and worked and loved, and, yes, relieved themselves without what we now take for granted. The humble toilet. And so we begin. The year is somewhere deep in the folds of ancient history. You are traveling back to a city carved from empire, a place humming with marble and sweat, sandals and shouts. It is not the distant, dusty edge of civilization, but its thriving center. You are going to Rome. Not the romantic Rome of postcards and gelato, but the ancient alive Rome, where streets echo with sandals and firelight dances on stone, where men in tunics stride with authority, where women tend to courtyards fragrant with herbs, and where the matter of, well, the call of nature is not private, not hidden, not polite. You are about to live, for a while, as one of them. You will wake with them, eat with them, walk their streets and fetch their water. You will feel what they felt, smell what they smelled, sleep where they slept. And yes, you will try to endure what it meant to exist, fully, bodily, in a world without toilets. There were chamber pots. There were latrines. There were sponges soaked in vinegar. There were long, slow walks to places that smelled of everything a city tries now to forget. There were solutions, clever ones, messy ones, communal ones. But the true marvel is not how they managed. It is that they did so with grace, with ritual, even with pride. But this journey, though filled with details, is not here to shock you. It is here to soothe, to carry you across a soft sea of history. Let your mind wander gently into it. Do not strain to remember facts. Let them pass through you like smoke, like dreams. Let the images rise like steam from warm stone. Let your eyelids grow heavy. Let your breathing soften. You may fall asleep while listening. And that is perfectly fine. In fact, that is the point. You do not feel the shift at first. It comes like a tide rolling in under your skin, slow and silent, until suddenly the weight of the present is gone. You begin to sense something changing. The temperature deepens, no longer climate-controlled or wrapped in the artificial hush. of modern insulation. This air is alive. It carries with it something raw and fragrant, something older than machines and morning coffee. It is the damp breath of stone and soot and open fire, of old wood, leather, and drying herbs, of bodies and dirt and wind. Your fingers twitch against the surface beneath you, and it is no longer the smooth softness of your bed. It is rough, fibrous. It smells of straw and something slightly sour, not unpleasant but organic, like old oats and sun-warmed hay. You are lying on a straw-stuffed mattress, barely more than a thick pad upon a low wooden frame. There is no pillow, only a roll of cloth beneath your head, scratchy with use. You feel your blanket, coarse wool, tugged over you against the morning chill. There is no glass window to shield you from the outside. Instead, wooden shutters hang slightly open, and from the narrow crack between them spills a gray, uncertain light. The world beyond them is muffled, but you hear it. Not the mechanical groan of cars or the hum of distant traffic, but the soft stirrings of life. Someone sweeping a courtyard with bundled reeds. A dog barking, not in panic, just in greeting. A cartwheel creaking slowly, drawn by something heavy-footed. Somewhere, faintly, water splashing into a stone trough. Birds call, sharper than you are used to, not because they are louder, but because the world itself is so still. You hear each chirp with clarity. You sit up slowly. Your joints feel heavier, not from age, but from the unfamiliar rhythm of this body you now wear. It is leaner than you are used to, more accustomed to labor. The wool tunic brushing against your skin is simple, dyed in a faded brown, stained near the hem. You feel its texture, dry, unyielding, yet warm. There is no elastic, no label scratching at your neck. Just cloth, just skin, just breath. The room is small. 4 walls of plaster and timber beams, a stool, a wooden chest, a low table with a clay oil lamp resting in its groove, the wick blackened from use. A folded length of linen lies across the table, perhaps for washing or wrapping. There are no mirrors, no switches to press, no glowing screens, no ticking clocks. You rise barefoot, and the floor beneath you is cold stone, uneven in places. It presses against your soles with an earthy firmness. A draft finds your legs. You wrap the wool shawl around your shoulders, its weight familiar now, like an old friend. The door is wood, swollen with moisture, and when you open it, it sighs quietly on its hinges. Outside is the morning. A narrow alleyway greets you, lined, with walls of mud brick and faded whitewash. Potted herbs lean from windowsills above, spilling green leaves down the walls like sleepy cascades. The ground is uneven, scattered with hay, a broken tile, a discarded fishbone. Your nose catches everything at once, smoke from hearths, the tang of brine, a faint sweetness of crushed fruit rotting beneath a cart, and then, unmistakably, the breath of Rome itself, human, musky, and unhidden. This is not a sanitized world. People rise and wash in basins, rinse hands with water that was fetched, not flowing. The scent of bodies is part of the morning. It hangs in the air like mist. Far above, rooftops catch the pale sky. There is no electricity, no neon signs, just the rising sun, still tucked behind the clouds, its light filtered like honey through the haze. A dove flutters from one roof to another, its wings crisp and dry like old parchment. You walk slowly. Your feet remember the cobbles. You are not a stranger here, though you have only just arrived. To your left, a woman empties the contents of a chamber pot into a gutter that lines the center of the alley. It is not done with shame or secrecy. This is the routine. Life here is lived fully in public. There are few doors that truly close. Smells mingle, voices carry. Privacy is rare, and mostly imagined. You nod to her, and she nods back, her hand wiping itself against her apron, a gesture not of apology, but of acknowledgement. Somewhere nearby, a baker begins to stir flour into a wide wooden bowl. The scent of yeast is already in the air. Someone whistles. A rooster crows belatedly. You are here, not as a visitor, not as a tourist, but as one of them. Your day will unfold as theirs did. You will find food, speak with neighbors, labor under the sun, rest under stars. But you will also navigate the discomforts, the daily inconveniences that modern comforts have all but erased. For in this world, water does not run from taps. Heat comes not with a button, but with fire and breath. And when nature calls, you will not close a door and flush it away. You will make do. You will improvise. You will wait in line at the communal latrine, or squat near a stone gutter, or perhaps use a pot and carry its contents down into the street at dawn. But you will manage. They all did, and you will feel something peculiar in this simplicity. A weight, yes, but also a clarity. The world does not move faster than you. It waits. It breathes with you. You are no longer overwhelmed by options. There is only one way forward, through the day, one moment at a time. Now, the city begins to murmur, not yet roar, just murmur. The clink of amphorae, the soft tap of sandals, the whisper of fabric as a woman pulls her shawl tighter. The sun is not yet high, but the day has begun, and so has your journey. You begin to notice, as the morning unfolds, how everyone around you is wrapped in fabric that moves like water, yet carries the texture of the earth. Roman clothing is not tailored as you know it. No zippers, no buttons, no fitted seams. It is draped, folded, fastened with brooches or girded with simple belts. It is both humble and dignified, woven from wool or linen, dyed in colors faded with age and wear. Your own tunic, reaching. Your knees is rougher than you would like, but its warmth is welcome in the crisp morning air. It rubs slightly at the shoulders where it hangs unevenly. Around your waist, a cord binds the cloth loosely, holding the folds in place. If you are a woman, your stola may fall farther, pooling gently around your feet, layered with a palla, a large shawl that can be pulled over your head in public, a gesture of modesty and grace. If you are a man of status, your toga is more than a garment. It is a symbol. Heavy, impractical, and ceremonial, the toga drapes in complex layers, requiring practice to wear. Few wear it daily, for its weight is not just fabric, but meaning, The colors matter. White for purity, dark for mourning, purple for power, but only a stripe of it, unless you are someone of true importance. The dyes come from earth and sea. Some rare shades require thousands of shellfish to yield just a drop. Most people wear shades of clay, dust, bark, and smoke. Shoes, if worn, are simple sandals, straps of leather crisscrossing over calloused feet. Some walk barefoot, especially the poor, especially the children. There are no closets, no hangers, no drawers packed with options. 1 or 2 garments serve the year. Stains are washed by hand, scrubbed with ash and water, laid to dry on flat stone. You will feel this, not as a burden, but as presence. Clothing is not a choice. It is a layer of labor, a veil between you and the world, but also a connection to it. There is no perfume in the modern sense. Scents come from crushed herbs, from oils, from smoke. Rosemary lingers in sleeves. Laurel clings to the neck. You pass someone who smells faintly of olive oil and earth, and this too is part of life. To be dressed is not about fashion. It is about station, modesty, function, respect. To be undressed, even slightly, is to be noticed, watched, perhaps judged. You tighten your shawl. You move more slowly now, aware of your silhouette, of your shape, of how the cloth catches. The breeze like a sail. You belong here, and the way you look tells everyone exactly who you are. The air hums not with noise, but with meaning. Words matter, but so do gestures. So do silences. In ancient Rome, the rules of behavior are carved deeply into the soil of everyday life. You must know how to carry yourself, not to stand too tall, nor slump too low. When you greet someone, you do not shake hands. That is a gesture reserved for equals or for soldiers on the field. Among family or close friends, a kiss to the cheek or the hand may be offered. But such intimacy is rare. Most of the time you bow your head, not deeply, just enough to show that you know your place. Speech is deliberate. Loudness is vulgar. Even argument, when it arises, is sculpted with rhetorical flourishes and quiet intensity. A Roman is always aware of his audience. A woman speaks less, but when she does, her words are measured, soft, cautious. You notice how people use their hands. Fingers splayed, palm raised, a sign of peace, a fist placed against the chest, a vow. A wave is not casual, it is deliberate. Lifting your garment to walk is done modestly, with care. Eating with your fingers is common, but to lick them too loudly is a breach of decorum. Even laughter has boundaries. Full-bellied joy is permitted in taverns, but not in the house of a senator. Watch the eyes. Prolonged contact can be a challenge. Averted gazes show deference. Children know to look down. Servants wait to be addressed. You will feel this everywhere, in how people pause before speaking to someone of rank, in how conversations bend around invisible lines of power. Cleanliness is not just a preference. It is moral. Public baths are common, and while the rituals of hygiene may differ from yours, the expectation remains. To arrive dirty is to insult your host. You will see people rinsing their hands before meals, wiping with cloths, even scenting themselves with myrrh or citrus peels. Do not point. Do not chew with your mouth open. Do not speak over someone older. Do not step too closely to those in white togas. Their place is above yours, and you will be reminded of it, gently or not. You walk more slowly now. You nod when spoken to. You wait your turn to speak. The world feels ceremonial, even in its informality. There is grace in routine, order in gesture, and every small movement matters. As the sun climbs higher and the street swells with life, you begin to observe another truth, that your day, your duties, your freedoms are shaped not only by your class or your clothes, but by your gender. If you are a man, you may move more freely. Your life unfolds largely outdoors, in the forum, the marketplace, the baths. You are expected to speak, to decide, to lead, even if your status is humble. You may be educated, or you may work with your hands. Either way, your voice is permitted to carry. If you are a woman, your life is more sheltered, not hidden, but contained. You spend more hours within the walls of the home, tending to the loom, the hearth, the garden. You manage the household with quiet authority, directing servants, arranging meals, keeping the family's rhythm intact. You may walk to market, yes. You may visit friends, attend festivals, but your movements are watched. Your body is always a symbol of modesty, of virtue, of lineage. Education for girls exists, but it is limited. Reading, perhaps, arithmetic. But more often you are taught the subtler arts, how to speak gently, how to yield when needed, how to remain still. Women do not vote. They do not hold office. They do not plead in court. But their influence runs, like a quiet stream beneath the marble streets, shaping decisions, guiding outcomes, guarding the hearth where the future is born. Marriage is not romance. It is alliance. Dowries are negotiated. Children follow quickly. A widow may find more freedom than a wife, but also more burden. Yet there is warmth in this order too. A woman seated near her doorway braids a child's hair with calloused fingers. A father teaches his son how to mend a strap. Roles are not only limitations, they are also rhythms, and within those rhythms, life flows. The city is not equal. It never pretends to be. Here, rank is everything, etched into clothing, posture, speech. There are slaves, freedmen, plebeians, patricians, each layer held, firm like the strata of ancient stone. You will know who rules by how they move. The senator with his lictors, staff-bearers parting the crowd before him, the magistrate whose ring gleams like a small sun, the matron whose veil is arranged just so, her sandals never touching dirt. At the bottom, the slave. He walks behind his master, eyes low, muscles tight. He may be born of conquest, or debt, or cruelty. He may speak better Latin than his master, but he may not speak out of turn. He may sleep on a pallet beside the fire, or chained beneath the stairs. He may be beaten, he may be freed. He may rise, but only if permitted. Freedmen, once enslaved, now free, walk a careful line. They may earn, they may own, but they remain marked. Not by scars always, but by silence. They remember. Punishment is swift and often public. Theft may earn a lashing, insolence a slap or worse. Crimes are judged by station, a patrician's. Sin is whispered about, a slave's mistake is carved into flesh. The law is not blind. It is watching, and it remembers. But justice, in its way, also offers structure. It defines the edges of survival. Stay in your place, respect the gods, keep your promises, and the city will carry you forward. There is comfort in order, even harsh order. And so you walk the streets with care. Not fear, just awareness. You bow when needed. Step aside when asked. You know where you belong, and that knowledge keeps you safe. For now, the day begins before your eyes have fully opened. Not because of urgency or noise, but because of the subtle changes around you. The deep stillness of night giving way to something new, something stirring just beneath the silence. You lie beneath your blanket, thick and scratchy from repeated washing, smelling faintly of smoke and lanolin. The straw mattress beneath you creaks softly as you shift your weight. Your body feels different. Not sore, exactly, but worn in. This is a body that labors, that carries water and wood and children. It knows the weight of tools and the repetition of motion. It knows stillness, too. There is no clock to rouse you. No buzzing, no chiming. Only the light. It begins as a pale glow pressing gently through the wooden shutters, not yellow or white, but soft and gray, like the inside of a seashell. The light carries with it the breath of the outside world, a coolness that kisses your face, a trace of dust, of dew, of old stone. You hear them now, faint sounds drifting in from the alley, the brushing of a broom made from bundled twigs. A rooster greeting the waking sun in a voice as cracked and raw as the tiles overhead. A dog stretches against its tether and groans, half growl, half yawn. The scent of the morning is old and earthen, not sterile, not perfumed. You inhale the mingled fragrances of smoldering embers, baked clay, olive oil. Somewhere nearby, a neighbor pours water from a jug into a shallow basin. It slaps the stone in a familiar rhythm. Washing is not indulgence. It is ritual. You rise slowly, not because you can linger, but because there is no rush. Everything takes time. Dressing, washing, Walking. You must move with the sun. You must move with the city. Your tunic lies folded on the stool, its wrinkles pressed in by time. You lift it and feel its weight. Heavy with dew, perhaps. The fabric is coarser than you remember, but there is comfort in that roughness. You slip it over your head. It falls against your skin like a second layer of sleep. There is no running water here. You reach for the earthenware jug and pour a small stream into a shallow basin. The water is cool, drawn last night or just this morning from a public fountain. You cup your hands and splash it onto your face. The cold bites, but gently. It wakes your skin, wets your lashes. Rolls down your neck in rivulets. You do not dry it. You let the air do that. There is soap, but not as you know it. Not from bottles or foaming dispensers. This is a rough cake of lye and ash and fat, sharp-scented, unyielding. You rub it between your palms until it froths a little. Then you scrub your hands, your arms, your neck. You rinse in the basin, watching the water cloud and swirl, carrying dust and sleep away. A piece of cloth hangs from a nail on the wall. You press it to your face, then drape it over your shoulders. It smells of sun and stone. Someone calls in the street. A name, a summons, a reminder that you are not alone in your waking. All around you, others rise, some from straw pallets on the floor, others from cots pressed against cool walls. Children murmur, pots clatter, a broom brushes again. You kneel, beside the hearth. It is not a place for lounging, but a shrine of daily survival. Last night's embers still glow faintly beneath the ash. You stir them with a stick and feed them a curl of dried vine. They breathe. Then they bloom. A faint orange glow rises, and you feel its warmth chase the chill from your fingers. There is no coffee, no tea. But there is something to drink. A clay cup holds water. Another has a weak wine, diluted and tart. Not for pleasure, but for safety. The water is not always clean, so they mix it. Gently, carefully. You sip it slowly, letting the tang wake your mouth. Beside the hearth sits a heel of bread, dry and cracked. You soak it in wine or water, softening it. The crust yields. The crumb clings to your fingers. You eat slowly, not because you are savoring, but because chewing takes time. And time is abundant now. You share the bread, maybe with a child, maybe with an elder who rises more slowly, maybe with no one but the silence. You do not eat alone, even when no one is present. The space itself is with you. The walls remember your breath. The sun climbs slightly higher. The shutters creak in their frames. You open them. Outside, the alley glows faintly gold. Chickens pick at crumbs. A cat slinks along a wall. A cart rumbles past, its driver hunched against the cold, humming under his breath. Your feet step into the world. The stones are uneven, cold. You feel them fully. Your day has begun, not with urgency, not with adrenaline, but with presence. You are awake, you are washed, you are fed, and the city calls you forward. The hunger that grows inside you is not sharp. It does not arrive with cravings for flavor, nor with visions of packaged meals or glowing screens. It stirs like the fire in the hearth, slow, steady, expected. It is part of the rhythm of the day, not an interruption to it. The preparation of food in ancient Rome is not rushed. It is not efficient. It is not convenience. It is ritual and necessity, wrapped in layers of effort and patience. There are no refrigerators to preserve, no ovens to preheat, no stoves to ignite with a single click. Everything must be gathered, chopped, ground, stoked, stirred, and waited for. You kneel beside the hearth again, where warmth pulses in quiet waves. A wide bronze or clay pot rests above the embers, blackened by years of use. There is no knob to turn, no thermostat to adjust. The heat comes from flame and coals, and you tend them carefully, adding a small stick here, a puff of breath there. The fire breathes with you. From a wooden shelf, you gather your ingredients. A handful of dried lentils, stored in a cloth pouch tied with twine. A strip of salted fish, leathery and pungent. A lump of coarse barley bread, torn from a larger, round. No wrappers, no labels, no plastic, just texture. Smell. Memory. You crumble the bread into a bowl, pour water over it, then stir it with your fingers until it softens. You add a splash of sour wine, maybe a drop of vinegar, and set it aside to swell. This will be your morning porridge, not sweet, not creamy, but thick and filling. A stone mortar rests nearby. In it, you grind dried herbs with a pestle. The weight of your hand pressing steadily downward. Thyme. Mint. Maybe a few dried celery seeds. The smell rises like an offering. You will add these to your lentils as they simmer. There is olive oil. Precious, golden, sharp. You drizzle it carefully, knowing how long it must last. You have seen how it is made, the great stone wheels crushing olives into pulp, the oil separating, gleaming like liquid amber. You use it not to coat or drown your food, but to finish it. A drop here, a shimmer there. A neighbor passes by your open doorway. She carries a basket of figs and soft goat cheese wrapped in leaves. She pauses, greets you, offers a few with an outstretched hand. You accept them with quiet thanks. There is no currency in this exchange, only warmth. You place a few figs on the hearth to warm. Their skins split slowly, releasing a dark, honeyed perfume. You crush one into your bread mash, let it bleed into the meal. Sweetness, soft and brief, like a gift from the gods. Children drift near the fire, rubbing their eyes. They are handed pieces of bread and dried fruit, told gently to chew, not to spill. There is no separate table for them, no child-proofed bowl. They eat what you eat. They learn hunger not as a punishment, but as a teacher. As the lentils thicken, in the pot, you stir them with a wooden spoon worn smooth by generations. You taste with your fingers. It is plain. It is hot. It is sustaining. You do not eat alone. Not really. Meals are communal, even the simplest ones. You sit on a low stool or on the ground. Food is shared from bowls, torn from loaves, scooped. By hand, there are no forks. Sometimes a small knife. More often, just fingers, napkins made from reused cloth, and the occasional polished spoon carved from bone or wood. Lunch, or prandium, may be cold. Perhaps olives, hard cheese, the heel of bread left from the morning. You eat outdoors, if the weather allows, perched on a step or by a fountain. You tear, you chew, you swallow. The act of eating is not hurried, but it is not ceremonial either. It is part of living. You do not scroll through distractions. You do not multitask. You eat and you taste. A boy walks by with a basket of flatbreads. Steam curls through the woven lid. You give him a coin, a small bronze disc, warm from his hands, and receive one still hot. You tear it open. Inside is nothing, just heat. But that is enough. If you are lucky, if the day is special, you may share a richer meal, perhaps in the home of someone wealthier. A stew with bits of lamb, carrots, onions, and herbs. A plate of boiled eggs seasoned with garum, the fermented fish sauce beloved by Romans. Sharp, salty, strange, but addictive. You sip wine diluted with water, held in simple clay cups. It is not for celebration. It is daily nourishment. There are no toasts, only conversation, not loud but murmured. Evening brings the final meal, cena, the heart of the Roman day. It may be elaborate or humble. It may stretch for hours, especially among the upper classes, with reclining couches and endless courses. But for most, it is a simple affair. Pottage, grains, maybe a stew left to bubble all day. You feed others first. Elders, children. Then, yourself. You eat slowly. You swallow warmth. And when you finish, there is no dessert. No final flourish. Just a wipe of the mouth. A thank you. A breath. Then the fire is banked. The bowls are rinsed. The crumbs are swept. And the body, satisfied, turns toward the evening. This is food. This is Rome. It does not dazzle, but it nourishes. It does not entertain, but it sustains, and in its quiet labor, it feeds something deeper than hunger. Here you step into the gentle pulse of Roman labor, each movement unfolding like a slow, deliberate dance. Welcome now to 4.3 Work, Labor, and Chores. The mornings. Meal has settled, and you feel a soft weight in your limbs, as if your body remembers its purpose. You stand and move outside, where the sun, now higher, warms the stones beneath your feet. Your first task is water, drawn from the public fountain or a well tended by neighbors. You place a clay jug on your shoulder, feeling its rounded bulk, press against the wool of your tunic. The handle, smoothed by countless hands, fits snugly in your palm as you step through the alley. With each footfall, the jug sways, a slow pendulum, and you learn, quickly, how to match its rhythm with your own heartbeat. There is a hollow sound as the jug empties into a shallow basin at home, the last sloshes echoing like distant raindrops. Next, you sweep. The broom is a bundle of twigs bound at the top, its ends rough against the stones. You move it in arcs, first along the threshold, then deeper into your small courtyard. Dust rises in a thin cloud, catching the light like particles of memory. You inhale it. It tastes of earth and ash, of last night's embers. You sweep away the hay and old scraps of food, mindful that every crumb left behind will attract vermin or rot in the summer sun. Your back curves, your arms arc, and in the rhythm of brush against stone, your mind slows further, each stroke both chore and meditation. There is laundry to do. You fetch another jug of water, cooler now from morning shade, and set a large basin at your feet. You plunge in the coarse garments, tunics, shawls, cloth kitchen rags, and begin to scrub. Your palms move in circles, the fabric stiff at first, then softening. The soap made of ash and fat crumbles in your hands, releasing its sharp scent. Each twist and pull is measured. You lift the garment, watch the water turn gray, then wring it until your fingers protest. The wet cloth cools your skin. You drape the pieces over a wooden rack, an improvised frame set beneath the open sky, and watch them sway gently in the breeze, drying slowly, infused with dust and faint olive oil. If you are a tradesperson, your labor may lie elsewhere. Forging, iron, shaping leather, laying bricks, or wielding the long handle of a millstone. You lean into your workbench, leather apron binding you, and feel the weight of tools familiar as old friends. A blacksmith's hammer rises and falls, sparks leaping from red-hot metal. A tanner stuffs hides into vats of fermented bark, the scent acrid, clinging to nostrils. A stonecutter wields chisel and mallet, each tap sending tremors through your fingertips. The world is shaped by your hands, and in return your hands bear calluses, small badges of service to the city's growth. Children will watch and mimic you, gathering scraps to throw on the fire or carrying small bundles of kindling. You send them off with a gentle admonition, and they run, bare legs flashing, with voices that ripple through the alley. You may pause to straighten a child's tunic or tie a loose sandal strap, the gesture tender, momentary. Then you return to your task, the familiar ache in your shoulders reminding you of purpose, of place. No chore is without intricacy. You tend the hearth's ashes, sifting them for embers, saving heat for the evening stew. You clean the chamber pot or scrub the communal latrine floor, water flowing in shallow channels carved from stone, sponged away with cloth, rinsed with care. You scoop the residue into a bucket, then carry it out before dawn disperses it among the street grasses or drains. You notice how the air shifts afterward, fresher, as if the city itself has sighed in relief. By midday you pause. Sweat dampens your tunic. The scent of ash, clay, and spilled wine clings to your skin. You breathe, deeply, tasting the salt of your labor. You look around and see others just as they were. Bodies bent, hands busy, voices low. No one rushes. No one interrupts the flow. You rest for a moment on a low bench, pressing your fingers to your temples. You drink a little water sweetened with wine. You offer scraps of bread to a passing dog, and then, with a small nod to yourself, you rise again, ready for whatever the afternoon may bring. After the midday light has warmed both walls and stones, the hum of labor softens, and the city seems to take a collective breath. You feel it in your bones, in the subtle shift of atmosphere, as if the world itself pauses to stretch its limbs. In this lull, there is space for leisure, for small delights that lift the spirit like incense rising from a brazier. You step into the courtyard, where a group of children chase each other between columns, their laughter low and fluid, weaving around your ankles as you pass. You find a smooth piece of marble or warm wooden bench and sit, letting your muscles unwind from their habitual tension. Nearby, game boards carved from wood or stone lie waiting, etched with simple grids or circular depressions. Players gather around, their fingers moving small pieces, knuckle bones, carved pebbles, or painted tokens. You take up a set and feel the weight of each piece in your hand, cool and smooth, its edges worn by countless games before. You learn the pattern swiftly, moving a bone here, nudging a token there, guided by the patient instruction of an elder who smiles with lines that speak of decades and victories and defeats. You rise and stretch, noticing how the sunlight slides across the courtyard floor in golden ribbons. A musician positions himself near a column, hair tied back, fingers poised on the strings of a lyre. He plucks a note that trembles like a drop of water, then another that echoes like distant wind. His music does not demand attention, it invites surrender. You close your eyes and let the melody drift through you, carrying you from one note to the next, each one soft and deliberate. The air carries the faint aroma of burning resin from his instrument, mingling with the dust and warmth and laughter. In another corner, a group of women gathers to spin wool. Their spindles whirl slowly, thread winding like silk ribbons, fingers dancing with practiced grace. They hum low refrains, words passed down through mothers and sisters, words older than the columns above. You sit among them, holding a small bundle of fleece, drawing it out thin, spinning it into yarn. Each turn of the spindle is a promise, a garment to be made, a blanket to be repaired, warmth to be shared. You breathe in the lanolin scent of the wool, let its softness remind you of renewal. Later, you follow a procession toward the forum, where day traders and performers have set up for an afternoon of celebration. A juggler tosses green apples into the air, catching and balancing them with startling precision. You watch, breath steady, as the apples arc against the sky and return to his hands, one after another, each catch met with quiet applause. A storyteller stands on a low platform, weaving a tale of heroes and gods, his voice measured, each pause a space for imagination. You lean forward on your sandals, toes curled around the warm stone, and let the story unfurl in your mind like a tapestry. Someone offers you a small piece of honeycomb, dripping its amber sweetness onto your tongue. The flavor is rich, sticky, fleeting. You taste the wildflowers of distant hills, the buzzing of bees, the slow turning of seasons. You close your eyes and savor it fully, letting its sweetness fill the quiet spaces within you. You feel gratitude not only for the taste, but for the moment, this delicate pause before the next rotation of the world's wheel. As afternoon deepens into evening, torches are lit, oil lamps are trimmed, and the golden glow returns to the streets. You follow a path of flickering light toward a small gathering near the baths. There, people recline on benches, sipping diluted wine and nibbling olives and cheese. They speak in soft tones, sharing news of distant fields, of births and deaths, of promises made and kept. You join them, leaning into the warmth of their company, feeling the slow pulse of the city's heart in your own chest. Then, with no grand announcement, music begins again, this time deeper, richer. A pair of pipes and a hand drum send out a low beat that you feel underfoot, as if the earth itself is dancing. You rise, unsteady at first, but gradually find your rhythm. Your feet move in simple steps, part of a line that grows around the courtyard. Hand in hand with your neighbors, you step forward, the breeze carrying the scent of crushed herbs and heated stone. The movement is not wild, not frenzied, but assured and flowing, each step echoing the next, each breath a shared pulse. You spin once, then twice, and laughter ripples through the circle. A child slips, catches your hand, and you steady her, her eyes bright with surprise and delight. You see the joy in the faces around you. Not the extravagance of velvet robes or silver goblets, but the glow that comes from unity, from motion, from the simple act of sharing space and breath. You feel lighter, freer, as if the weight of your body has been redistributed among the circle. The music recedes. The night grows deeper. Torches gutter in the evening breeze. The laughter turns to murmurs and the crowd drifts apart. You find yourself alone for a moment beneath an archway, looking up at the sky painted with stars. Without the haze of modern light, the cosmos feels close, packed with glimmering steps that lead to somewhere unknown. You inhale the cool air, tasting its clarity, sensing the slow turning of the earth beneath your feet. A flute's lament slinks through the arch. You pause, listening to its soft cry, and then slowly make your way home, guided by the glow of oil lamps and the distant echo of music. You pass silent doorways and empty carts and walls that hold centuries of story. You feel their presence, like breath against your skin, like the memory of hands long vanished. At your own doorway, you pause. You run a hand along the cool stone. You imagine the laughter and music that once filled this space, now faded, waiting to be reborn tomorrow. You step inside and find the hearth's embers still warm, as if welcoming your return. You sit by the fire, rubbing your hands together, tasting the memory of the day's joys. And in that warmth, you rest. The world grows quiet once more. But the echoes of laughter, of music, of motion remain in your mind like soft afterglow. You return to the modest refuge of your dwelling just as the sun begins its descent, its pale light filtering through the shutters in long, slanted bars. Inside, the room feels smaller now, intimate as a heartbeat. Walls close with the warmth of familiarity. The hearth glows with embers that have rested since the morning rituals, ready to be coaxed back into life. You kneel before it and rake the ashes, stirring the glowing fragments until the fire awakens again, sending soft orange tongues flickering against the rough plaster. The light dances on the walls, revealing stains left by seasons past. Each mark a silent testament to laughter and tears, to stories spoken softly under oil lamps, to meals shared in the hush of evening. Home is more than shelter. It is a tapestry of voices and hands and soft fabric. As you straighten a wooden stool, you notice the scratch where a child once carved a name, a shallow scar etched into the grain. You run your finger along it, imagining small, eager hands pressing hard with a piece of flint, dreaming of identity in a world carved by ancestors. You feel the pulse of that memory, a gentle thrum that reminds you that every life leaves its mark, however faint. A child appears at the threshold, blinking against the shifting light. Barefoot, clad in a small linen tunic dyed with leftover scraps of color, the child is both shadow and spark. You rise to greet this presence, your hand smoothing the frayed edge of the child's sleeve. There is no hurry in your movements, only the slow assurance of experience. You stoop, voice a soft murmur, and ask how the day has been. The answer arrives in a tumble of words, a litany of scraped knees and hidden treasures and midday naps, in the sunlit alley. You listen, nodding, your eyes warm with attention. In this listening, you honor the child's small world, its wonders and woes, its quiet triumphs and tears. Nearby, an elder sits on a low bench, back curved like an ancient vine, eyes half closed against the flickering light. You approach, carrying a shallow bowl of pottage, its steam curling like a prayer between you. You kneel, offering the bowl, feeling the elder's gaze settle on you, proud and weary and forever watchful. The elder accepts with a small smile, lips pressed together against the steam, and in that acceptance you feel the weight of generations, the unbroken chain of care and wisdom. You sit beside the elder, hands braced on your knees, and for a moment the world contracts to breath and presence, to the soft murmur of heartbeats and embers. Outside, beyond the threshold, the courtyard murmurs with activity. A neighbor lowers a basket of fresh laundry, hands brushing against yours as you pass sheaves of linen to hang on the rack. The fabric whistles softly in the breeze, carrying the scent of olive oil and sweat and lavender from the shrine beyond the alley. You share a quick exchange of words, names, well wishes, a hint of tomorrow's plans, then resume your task. In these small touch points, the community holds itself together, each gesture a lock in the chain that binds lives into one unfolding story. The evening meal is a quiet affair, bits of grain boiled with lentils, scraps of fish warmed over the embers, olives pressed into a dish like dark jewels. You gather around the fire with your kin, the circle huddled close in the lingering heat. You pass bowls and cups, each movement deliberate and unhurried, as if time itself has softened and chosen to slow with you. Conversation is gentle. Stories, retold from generations past, news of distant kin, hopes and fears whispered like secrets into the dim air. You speak not to be heard, but to be felt, each word carrying emotion like a note in a lullaby. After the meal, silence settles like a soft blanket. You remain by the fire, hands extended toward its warmth, watching sparks drift upward and vanish. A sibling or neighbor lights a small clay lamp, setting it on a low table beside a stack of simple pottery. The oil wick burns with a golden glow, and you trace its light with your eyes, following its arc until it meets your own reflection in a polished bronze dish. In that softly distorted image you see a face shaped by sun and labor, by kindness and weariness, by the unspoken promise of another dawn. You rise, carrying your bowl and cup to the corner where water still stands, and pour the dregs into the basin. The water flows out in a slow arc, whispering as it meets the stone floor and trickles away toward the street. You wipe the vessels on a cloth that has been used for years, its threads fraying but its purpose clear. Each cloth, each bowl, each tool anchors you to this place, each one an extension of your care. Finally, as the lamps gutter low and the embers drift to sleep, you gather blankets and linen, folding them with reverence. You offer a soft gesture to the child, an invitation to rest, and see those small eyes grow heavy almost instantly. The elder settles deeper onto the bench, a contented sigh escaping with the settling smoke. You pause at the doorway, one hand on the frame, breathing deeply, tasting gratitude in the night air. In this circle of hearth and kin, you find not perfection, but presence, Not isolation, but connection. You feel the pulse of many hearts beating, quietly together, a shared rhythm that holds you all until morning's first gray light. You step inside your small room, slide beneath the scratchy blanket, and press your head to the straw mattress, closing your eyes to the gentle echoes of laughter and conversation that still hum in your memory. And as the world beyond these walls grows quiet, you drift on the steady cadence of home, of family, of relationships woven like threads into the tapestry of your ancient life. Dawn light slips through the columns of the temple courtyard, turning pale marble into a quiet sea of ivory. Here, under the open sky, you find yourself drawn by the hush of worship, not by thunderous proclamation, but by gentle rites that tether the mortal to the divine. The air holds a faint perfume of incense, pinches of crushed resin flickered into smoky plumes that curl like soft whispers toward the heavens. Each wisp carries the prayers of those who came before, their hopes and fears trailing upward, dissolving into the morning light. You enter the temple grounds barefoot, feeling cool, stone beneath your feet, its surface textured by centuries of worshippers who knelt, stood, and offered sacrifice. A low wall surrounds the sacred space, inside of which stand statues of gods and goddesses, figures carved with patience and reverence, their faces serene, their eyes gazing beyond the confines of human sight. You pause before one. Perhaps the dignified silhouette of Jupiter, shoulder-draped with a lion pelt, or the gentle form of Vesta, her hair bound in a simple bun, guardian of the hearth. You run your fingers lightly over the base of her pediment, tracing the carved lines that tell stories and symbols. An ear of wheat, a flame, a winged foot. Each symbol a promise of favor, each curve and crease a guide to ritual. The priestess approaches you, her footsteps silent on the stone. She carries a shallow bowl of water drawn from a spring believed to flow from beneath the city's heart. You dip your fingers into it and touch your forehead, cheeks, lips, cleansing yourself. In preparation to stand before the sanctuary, water beads on your skin, catching the morning brightness like scattered jewels, and for a moment you feel separated from the world outside, lifted into a realm governed by signs, omens, and sacred duty. A small altar stands at the courtyard, center, its surface lined with offerings, fruit still dewy from orchards beyond the city walls, grains heaped in neat piles, small fishes laid out with care. You kneel and place your own contribution. A handful of barley, ground fine, symbol of toil rewarded. Your heart pulses softly as you lower it onto the altar, feeling the ritual's gravity, the weight of unspoken vows. With a measured breath, you rise, stepping back until the altar stands between you and the silent temple doors, where the inner sanctum sleeps under the watch of veiled priests. From a pedestal nearby, a lit torch sends crackling sparks skyward. You watch the flame dance, its delicate arc as if moving to a music only it hears. The priestess sprinkles the altar with a fine powder of incense mixed with ash from the hearth, and the offerings begin to smoke, the fragrance deepening and rounding. The smell is both sweet and sharp, earthy and burning. It feels physical, wrapping around you, weaving a tapestry of scent that binds body and spirit. You kneel once more and bow your head, lips parting in a murmured invocation. The words are old, passed down through poetic lines, not learned as commands, but felt like notes in a lullaby. You speak of gratitude for sunlight and rain, of hope for abundant harvest and safety from plague or war. You voice these thoughts with sincerity, though your voice is small against the temple's vastness. The echo of your prayer holds you in place, a reminder that belief lives as much in breath as in action. When the ritual draws to a close, you are handed a small cake of spelt and honey, baked in honor of Ceres. You break off a piece and taste its simplicity. Dense, sweet, slightly gritty against your tongue. You chew deliberately, letting each flavor settle into your senses. You swallow and feel the offering transform, becoming part of you, just as you have become part of the ritual. As you stand to leave, the priestess murmurs final words, her voice like wind through reeds. You bow once more before the statues, then step through the temple gates back into the waking city. The scents of incense and barley linger in your hair. The cool of marble fades beneath your sandals, replaced by the warmth of sunlit stone. Yet something remains within you, a gentle murmur, a tether to the unseen world that breathes alongside your own. Leaving the temple, you carry its hush in your chest. Around you, life resumes its ordinary tempo. Vendors calling their wares, blacksmiths hammering iron, children darting between legs. And yet, beneath that hum, you feel the pulse of the divine, steady and low, guiding each step, reminding you that every act, no matter how small, is part of an endless rite that stretches back through the ages and forward into the dusk yet to come. You step out into the open air, where every rustle and whisper seems laden with hidden meaning. In Rome, the world is alive with signs. Each bird call, each tremor of wind against a column, each flicker of flame becomes an oracle's whisper. The city itself is a tapestry of portents, woven from superstition and daily awe. You learn to watch and to listen, for to ignore an omen is to court misfortune. Above you, a flock of sparrows sweeps across the sky, their wings beating in unison like a trembling heart. You pause at their passage, remembering that sparrows, those small common birds, are believed to carry both good and ill. If they travel from left to right, they bring fortune. From right to left, a warning of strife. You tilt your head, following their pattern, and exhale slowly. In that single moment, you make your choice, to interpret their course as a blessing, to smile at the promise of calm days ahead. Later, as you pass a baker kneading dough in the street, you notice the way the flour settles. A swirl of white dust drifts across the ground, forming shapes that speak to those who know how to read them. You crouch, tracing a line with your finger where the wind has etched a curve like a scythe. A scythe, you recall, can mean harvest or death. You press your lips together and shift the dust into a small pile, burying the ominous curve with a gesture of gentle defiance. You murmur a quiet plea for protection, though no words escape your lips. The city around you moves on, unaware, but you carry the dust in your palm, a secret weighed with meaning. In the market, a vendor offers figs and plums from distant orchards. 2 figs lie side by side, identical in size and shape. You pick them up and examine their stems. If they are joined, you will soon receive good news. If one stem is broken, you must prepare for disappointment. The stems part in your hands, one curve crooking gently away. You feel a small pang of worry and tuck the figs back into the basket, choosing instead a handful of olives to lift your spirit. Better to focus on what you can enjoy than to be consumed by fate's small fracture. By midday, the sky shifts unexpectedly. Dark clouds gather behind the pale blue, and a sudden gust rattles the shutters above. Lightning arcs in the distance, bright as a blade. People hurry to close jars of oil and to shelter children beneath lean-tos. You stand still, lifting your face to the wind, letting its breath swirl around you. You know that thunder can foretell battles or deaths in distant lands. You steady your heart, whispering thanks that you are here in this moment, alive to feel the storm's power. You duck beneath an awning as the first raindrops fall, each one a drumbeat of warning and renewal. In the quiet that follows, you notice an overturned bucket by a neighbor's door. The handle points toward the street. An overturned vessel is a sign of change, sometimes good, sometimes bad. You step forward and right the bucket, setting it gently upright. The water within ripples and stills. You press your palm to the side of the bucket and imagine sealing your own fortunes against misfortune. A simple act, yet enough to calm your thoughts. As evening approaches, you find yourself drawn to the hearth once more. Flames dance in the embers, casting shadows that twist across the walls. You tend them carefully, watching how the fires crackle and shift. A sudden flare, a spark shot high. This can herald a visitor or a message. You hold your breath, believing for an instant that someone will come bearing news at your threshold. When the spark dies down, you let your shoulders relax, inviting. Whatever news may come in its own time. Before you settle to sleep, you step outside and look up at the stars. The constellations are guides, each one a story stretched in light. You trace the shape of the Great Bear, then the Scorpion, murmuring thanks to the gods for navigation and protection. You note the moon's phase, waning now, a sliver that seems shy. A waning moon can mean endings, but also release. You allow your thoughts to align with its quiet retreat, releasing worries and fears into the night air. You return inside and extinguish the lamp with a careful pinch of your fingers, feeling its warmth fade against your skin. In the hush, you remember every small sign you have witnessed today. Every twist of dust, every bird's flight, every crackle of flame. Each omen has spoken in its own tongue, and each you have met with a small gesture of acceptance or defiance. In this world, the line between chance and fate is delicate, and you walk it with open eyes. You settle onto your straw mattress, pulling the coarse blanket around your shoulders, its weight a reassurance. The room is dim, save for the faint glow of embers at your feet. You close your eyes, listening for any final whispers, perhaps the soft sigh of wind through the shutter crack, a reminder that the city breathes still, and that each day brings new omens to guide a patient heart. In the soft half-light of early afternoon, when the city hums like a distant chorus, you find yourself drawn towards stories that rise from the mist of memory and earth. Myths in this world slip into daily life like whispered currents beneath a river's surface, shaping how you see the stones beneath your feet or the sky arching overhead. You step into a shadowed portico where an old storyteller waits, his robes faded to the gray of weathered marble, his eyes glinting with flickers of ancient wonders. He begins not with fanfare, but with a single breath, as if drawing the world into his lungs and exhaling it in measured syllables that dance between you like motes of dust in a sunbeam. He speaks of Romulus and Remus, the twin brothers cradled by a she-wolf on the banks of the Tiber, their cries echoing through reeds and moonlight. You imagine the damp fur brushing their skin, the steady heartbeat of the great mother animal beneath them, the taste of warm milk on their lips. You feel the ache of orphanhood in every syllable, and the stubborn spark of survival that ignites as they grow into men destined to found a city. The world shifts around you, columns fading into trees, paved stones into riverbank mud, and for a moment you stand there, ankle-deep in water, watching a litter of pups scramble for warmth under a belly that is equal parts animal and legend. He moves then to the tale of Aeneas, the exiled prince who carried his father on his back as flames consumed Troy, his heart torn between duty and longing. You feel the weight of your own ancestors in his burden, the blistered heels that pressed bloody footprints into foreign sand, the salt of tears blending with sea spray as he ventures into unknown lands. The story carries you across the Mediterranean, past hidden shoals and rocky shores, until you taste the salt tang of olive groves and see the first pale columns of a land that will one day cradle a great empire. In his wanderings you sense the fragile thread that binds home to exile, the promise of a seed planted in foreign soil, the slow growing of destiny from dust. A hush falls as the old man whispers of Caecus, the fire-breathing giant who dwelled in a cave of black rock, stealing cattle under cover of night and hiding them in the stony belly of the earth. You lean closer, hearing the low rumble of subterranean breath, feeling the heat of stolen fire-silt charcoal on your skin. You imagine yourself creeping along shadows, a torch in one hand, heart pounding with the thrill of the hunt, the monstrous breath echoing off cavern walls. The legend crackles around you like distant embers, warning of greed's flames, of heroes who must wrest darkness from the earth to restore order. Between tales, the storyteller pauses, his gaze drifting upward toward the courtyard's open roof. There you see the statue of the Sibyl, her eyes carved to stare across centuries, her lips forever poised above a secret word. You recall how she once spoke in riddles, her prophecies woven from smoke and breath, her voice a tapestry of time. You feel the weight of unspoken futures pressing gently against your mind, a reminder that every life is both known and yet to be revealed. A final story drifts from his lips like petals on a slow river, the myth of Arachne, a weaver whose skill challenged the gods themselves. You picture the loom under her hands, threads shimmering like dawnlight, patterns unfolding like living webs. In a moment of pride and defiance, she dared to match divine artistry and was transformed into a creature forever bound to her craft. You sense in her fate a mirror of your own life. Thread and cloth, labor and creation, the thin line between mastery and hubris. You feel the hush of fear that follows great skill, the gentle reminder that every gift can become its own cage, if wielded without humility. As the last echo of his voice drifts away, you rise from your seat on the cool stone, carrying these myths like small stones in your pocket, weighty, resonant, timeless. The city beyond the portico seems unchanged, but you are not the same. You pass columns that now feel like silent, sentinels of legend, arches that hold ghosts of heroes, and pavements that whisper of destinies born in dust. The air tastes richer, as though seasoned with the breath of gods and monsters. You step back into the marketplace, the hum of daily life once more playing around you, and you realize that these myths are not distant tales confined to memory. You step back into the marketplace, the hum of daily life once more playing around you, and you realize that these myths are not distant tales confined to memory. They are living currents that flow beneath every conversation, every gesture, every stone that bears your footfall. They shape the world you inhabit, reminding you that you too are part of a story unfolding, one thread among many, woven into the fabric of time. And as you carry these legends with you, you feel a deep connection to those who came before and those who will come after, bound by the same need to explain the unexplainable, to seek meaning in shadow and light, to dream aloud in the darkness. You follow the narrow alley to the home of a healer, guided by the faint scent of herbs and simmering broth that drifts on the morning air. The door is a simple wooden plank, its surface worn smooth by countless hands seeking solace. Inside, the walls are lined with clay jars and bundles of dried plants hung from rafters, their leaves rustling softly like whispering wings. You step over a stone threshold and feel the coolness of the earth beneath your feet, a gentle reminder that healing here is rooted in nature's own rhythms. The healer kneels by a low table, her fingers deft as she grinds crushed roots with a mortar and pestle. You see mandrake for pain, crushed willow bark for fever, and poppy seeds for rest. Each plant is chosen not by trial and error, but by centuries of careful observation and whispered lore. You lean forward, inhaling the musky tang of the poultice. She forms, a mud-like paste that will be spread across a wound or pressed to a sore muscle. You feel the cool weight of the mortar in your own hand, as if invited to join in this ancient work. She murmurs names you do not know, cephalanthus for swelling, artemisia for digestive woes, but her tone is soft and sure. With each word, you sense compassion, dedication honed by long nights tending the sick and injured. You watch as she dips a linen patch into a cup of warmed oil infused with garlic and frankincense. You flinch slightly at the aroma, raw and pungent until you remember that potency often arrives in sharpness. You feel the linen press against your skin, the oil seeping into pores, carrying both sting and relief. In one corner of the room, a clay basin holds steamy water thickened with vinegar and rosemary branches. A neighboring resident has come to soak a foot swollen from too many hours standing in the market. You kneel beside her, lift her sandal, and immerse her foot in the scented liquid. Steam curls around your hand as you massage the arch, feeling the tension ease away. You taste the sharp herb on your tongue when you taste your fingers, and you imagine that you are absorbing the healing warmth yourself. You learn that bloodletting is practiced here too, venesectio performed with care and ritual. The healer selects a fine bronze lancet, its blade sharpened to a precise point. You feel curiosity and hesitation interwoven, for you know that blood holds life itself. She whispers words of supplication to the spirits of the body, not gods of Olympus, but unseen forces believed to govern health. You watch as she makes a small incision above the elbow, the blood flowing dark and steady into a clay cup. You feel the healer's hand steady both blade and patient's arm, her touch firm yet tender, guiding the life's essence away to restore balance. You notice a hush fall over the room, as if the world holds its breath while the body releases its burden. Elsewhere in the courtyard, a smoking brazier stands surrounded by a circle of villagers. They bring small chrismal wounds, cuts from cooking, splinters from wood, bruises from cartwheels. The healer dips a handful of salted ash into hot coals, then sprinkles the glowing embers around the wounds. You flinch at the thought, yet you see the skin seal and the pain ease almost instantly. The ashes carry both cauterizing heat and purification, binding flesh with an alchemy of fire. You ask about dreams as medicine. The healer nods, explaining softly that some illnesses are born in the mind and spirit. She places a bowl of water at the head of a sick child and instructs the mother to watch for shapes on its surface at dawn, that the reflection of stars and clouds may reveal hidden causes. You imagine yourself returning in the dim light of morning, peering into rippling water for omens of balance or upheaval, of humors out of harmony. Her clinic is both laboratory and sanctuary. A small shrine to Aesculapius, god of healing, stands against one wall, an offering of clay snakes curled around a staff. You kneel before it, touching the shrine's base, feeling the communal faith that threads through every remedy. Even here, science and superstition coexist, each one shaping the other in a fragile embrace. Before you depart, the healer presses a small vial of herbal oil into your hand, an unguent for headaches and cramps. She instructs you to anoint your temples 3 times each dusk and dawn. You feel the oil's slick weight, its scent of bitter herbs and soft warmth. You nod, whispering gratitude in your mind rather than your lips, for here words are as precious as water. Stepping back into the alley, you carry both relief and wonder. You feel the pulse of Rome not only in its stones and crowds, but in its ceaseless quest for healing, its acknowledgement that the body and spirit are intertwined in delicate balance. You hear the distant clang of a smith's hammer mingled with the murmur of children's laughter, and you sense that life's injuries and cures unfold in tandem, each breath both vulnerability and strength. You tuck the vial into your pouch, ribboned with dried basil leaves, and continue your journey along the sunlit stones. You feel the warmth of the healer's hearth still glowing within you, a reminder that even in a world without modern wonders, compassion and observation can mend flesh and soul. The dusk air grows cool and still as you pass through a narrow lane, toward the edge of the city, where the stone pavements give way to earth and shadow. Here, away from the bustle of market stalls and clattering wheels, lies the necropolis, a quiet city of the dead. Lanterns hang from rough-hewn posts, their flames flickering against the ritual masks carved into tombs. You tread softly, each footfall a muted prayer to those who rest below. Death in Rome is neither ghoulish nor hidden. It is woven into the fabric of life, a weight as natural as sleep. You see mourners gathered at crumbling altars, their faces veiled in dark cloth, hands pressed against cold stone as they name the lost. They bring offerings, fresh garlands of myrtle, coins placed on lips, bowls of honeyed wine poured over graves. Each gesture is an act of remembrance, a declaration that absence does not erase love. At a family tomb, you pause to observe the rites of commemoration. A matron stands at the headstone, her linen stola trailing in the dust. She sprinkles a handful of flour mixed with salt upon the marble slab, each grain a symbol of purity and preservation. You sense her grief balanced by devotion, her tears falling like rain that nourishes memory. She murmurs the names of her ancestors, each one a thread in the tapestry of her lineage. You feel the hum of that thread beneath your feet, connecting, past to present. Nearby, a funeral procession moves slowly toward the pyre. Torches sway in long arcs, their light dancing on polished shields and grieving faces. Musicians play the tibia and cornu, their notes measured yet mournful, echoing off distant hills. You join in the march, the soil pressing against your sandals, and you feel the weight of a life slipping away, carried in smoke toward the sky. At the pyre's edge, attendants arrange wood and kindling around the body, draped in simple cloth. Herbs and spices are tucked at the collar, lavender to soothe the spirit, rosemary to guide the soul. You notice how each branch is chosen for meaning, each flower for its promise of remembrance. The pyre is lit, not with haste, but with ceremony. Flames leap upward, devouring cloth and wood, carrying flesh and bone into the realm of air and ash. You lift your face to the sky, feeling warmth and sorrow merge as the smoke curls into evening clouds. They collect the ash in an urn, its surface inscribed with names and dates. You hold the urn with reverence, feeling its cool weight in your hands. It will rest in a columbarium niche or be interred beneath an olive tree, depending on station and means. You sense that the soul travels on, perhaps to journey through Hades, guided by Charon's boat, or to dwell among ancestors on the Elysian fields. The exact path is a matter of faith, shaped by ritual and belief. Yet in every version there is hope, that death is not an end, but a passage into another form of belonging. You kneel beside a child's grave, a simple mound of earth marked by a small scroll pinned into the soil. The child's name is inscribed with trembling hand, letters uneven yet earnest. A neighbor places a single pomegranate half upon the grave. Fruit of life and death, its seeds like small souls waiting to be born again. You taste the bittersweet flavor in your mind, feeling both sorrow and gentle promise in that offering. As night deepens, lanterns glow brighter, casting soft pools of light around every tomb. You walk among them, each lamp a flickering heartbeat, each monument a story etched in stone. You press your palm to cool marble, feeling the carved relief of clasped hands or fluttering wings. You whisper a name into the quiet, your voice carried by wind into niches and shadows, an echo that lingers like a blessing. In the distance, a chant rises from a hidden chapel, a cantor's soft voice repeating prayers for guiding spirits. You pause at the threshold, listening to rhythms that weave body and soul together, earth and sky entwined in song. The words dissolve into the hush, leaving only the warmth of faith glowing in your chest. Turning away, you leave the necropolis behind and return to the living streets. The city seems unchanged, but you carry its silent accompaniment with you. You feel the lingering breath of those who have passed, their memories riding on every breeze, their stories woven into the stones beneath your feet. You sense that death, far from ending the story, has merely changed its setting, moving life's current from river to sea, from earth to air, from memory to eternity. And so you walk onward, the lanterns of the dead still flickering in your mind, guiding you gently toward whatever dawn awaits beyond the veil of night. In the winding alleys of Rome, where shadows gather beneath arches and sunlight flickers across battered walls, there lives a man known to all and trusted by none. His name is lost to time, replaced by a dozen nicknames: Myrrhus the mocker, Gavus the grinning, Flavius fool of the forum. He drifts from street to street, ragged tunic barely clinging to lean shoulders, eyes bright with mischief and sorrow alike. His feet are bare, though his soles are thick as leather, and in each step there is a deliberate unsteadiness, as if he dances to music only he can hear. You encounter him early one morning by the public latrine, where the stone seats rise like rows of silent sentinels. He leans against the wall, balancing a wooden bowl on his palm. As you approach, he greets you with a low bow and an exaggerated wink. His voice is soft, almost conspiratorial, and he whispers riddles about the birds and the tide, about the way shadows grow long when nobody looks. You catch only fragments, something about a fox in the courtyard and a pot left unturned. You smile politely, uncertain whether to laugh or to walk on, for his presence is at once unsettling and comforting. He moves closer, picking up a chipped tile from the ground and tracing its cracks with a finger. He tells you that this fragment once served as a mirror for a queen, though her name has been washed away by rain and sand. He speaks as if he believes it, and somehow you do too, feeling the weight of vanished crowns in that insignificant shard. Then he flings the tile skyward, where it arcs and clatters to the cobbles, shattering into dust. He claps once, thin palms echoing on the stones, and proclaims that all that glitters will crumble, and all that crumbles will glimmer in memory. Children gather around him as he recites a comedic saga of a senator's toga that unwound in the streets, revealing secrets better left in the dark. His gestures are wide and theatrical, arms tracing invisible circles, fingers sculpting laughter out of thin air. Even the most solemn of women cannot help but crack a smile as he mimics the dignified stance of a magistrate slipping on discarded fish bones. He leans forward, mock-whispering that fish bones are the finest obstacle course for the haughty, a secret known only to the wise few. Yet behind every jest there is a shadow. In the quiet between jokes, you glimpse the lines etched. Deep around his eyes, the flicker of something heavy in his gaze. He speaks once of a family lost to plague, of laughter stolen by grief, before shifting the tale to a troupe of dancing monkeys that once performed at the Temple of Vesta. You sense that his humor is armor, that every prank hides a wound, and that he offers you laughter as both gift and shield. He instructs you to kneel beside him and press your ear to the ground. You do, and you perceive the faint thrum of water flowing beneath the city's stones. He says that if you listen long enough, you can hear the breath of Rome itself, its joys and fears, its triumphs and betrayals, coursing just below your fingertips. He asks you what you hear, and you whisper that you hear the heartbeat of a living empire. He nods, satisfied, then tilts his head as if listening for something more, before vanishing down a narrow passage as if swallowed by the walls. Later, you glimpse him at dusk, perched on a fountain's edge, weaving a tale so sorrowful that even the water seems to hush in sympathy. He speaks of star-crossed lovers torn apart by fate, of a child who learned to speak only in dreams, of an old dog who guided his blind master across the Tiber every dawn. His voice cracks with emotion, and you feel the tears prickle at the corners of your eyes. Then, as the final word drifts away, he bows once more, offers a jest about the moon's missing tooth, and slips back into the shadows, leaving behind only the echo of his laughter and the imprint of his sorrow. In this city of order and ritual, he is the unpredictable element, the outsider who reminds you that life cannot be governed by law alone. His folly is a mirror held to your own certainties, reflecting both their fragility and their warmth. He is both jester and sage, clown and prophet, and in his presence the weight of the world seems lighter, if only for a moment. You carry his riddles in your mind as you walk on, the memory of his laughter a soft tremor against the steady march of your own footsteps. You arrive at the basilica just after sunrise, guided by the deep chime of an iron bell that echoes through narrow streets. The judges' benches rise on a dais of white marble, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of petitions, pleas, and proclamations. You stand at the bottom of the steps, tunic brushing against weathered stone, and look up at the figure seated. Above you, Lucius Marcellus, magistrate of this quarter and guardian of its laws. His robe is more than garment, it is authority woven into cloth. The toga candida drapes across his broad shoulders in heavy folds of bleached wool, its edges embroidered with a stripe of crimson that marks his station. In the faint morning light, the crimson seems to glow, a heart pulsing with power. His sandals peek from beneath the hem, polished to a muted sheen, straps crossing over feet that rarely know the dust of common roads. You step forward, heart steady yet aware of your place. Around you, other citizens, merchants, slaves, freedmen, gather in silent rows, posture rigid as statues carved from the same marble. No one interrupts, no one whispers. The weight of expectation hangs in the air like incense smoke. Lucius Marcellus rises, his stature without force yet commanding attention. You sense the hush of respect, the tiny intake of breath that follows his movement. His face is calm, almost austere, lines etched by years of judgment and the burden of decision. Eyes like river stones, gray and clear, sweep the assembly slowly, gathering each story, each grievance, each fear. He raises his hand, palm open and fingers straight, and the crowd inclines its heads in unison. You feel a gentle pressure in your chest, as if your own breath has paused. Then his voice emerges, soft, measured, resonant. He speaks not to be heard above the crowd, but to be felt within each soul. Word by word, he calls forth disputes over debts, disagreements between neighbors, accusations of theft, pleas for mercy. There is no flourish, no dramatic gesture. Each case is a pebble dropped into a still pool, its ripples carrying weight far beyond its size. When your name is called, you step forward, eyes low, and present your case. A dispute over unpaid. Grain delivered by a shopkeeper who vanished before dawn. Your voice wavers at first, but you recall the magistrate's reputation for fairness, for listening. You describe the coarse sacks of grain, the empty stall, the echo of a promise unkept. You speak slowly, deliberately, aware that every word matters. The magistrate inclines his head, fingers steepled, listening as if your voice is the only one in the world. After you finish, silence stretches. Then Lucius Marcellus stands, each movement deliberate and deliberates aloud. He invokes laws written by ancestors, customs older than the Republic, precedents from cases you have never heard. His reasoning flows like a river, deepening with every turn, narrowing around your claim until it is shaped and defined. You feel your tension ease as he weighs fact against testimony, emotion against principle. Finally, he pronounces judgment. His words fall softly, yet with the finality of falling stone. The shopkeeper is ordered to repay the grain with a small penalty for delay. You bow your head and whisper gratitude. The crowd exhales. A few nod in approval. Others murmur quietly, among themselves. The magistrate motions, and the next petitioner steps forward. Once the court adjourns, Lucius Marcellus descends from the dais, unaccompanied by fanfare. He walks among the people, stepping lightly as if uncomfortable with his own power. You observe how he pauses to press a hand to the shoulder of a freedman who has just received justice, how he offers a quiet word to a woman whose plea was denied, acknowledging her pain. His authority is not rooted in fear, but in empathy, an understanding that law must temper justice with mercy. You follow him as he moves toward the Temple of Saturn, where he will offer libations for the prosperity of the city. The early sun glints on his toga's stripe, on the intricate carving of his signet ring. You realize that power in this world is not only about command, but about care, about the willingness to carry the burdens of many on broad shoulders. As he halts before the temple steps, you catch his eye for a fleeting moment. He inclines his head, and in that gesture you feel both the weight of his office and the quiet humanity beneath. In his presence, you learn that true authority can be as gentle as it is firm, as compassionate as it is unwavering. You step back, into the street, the murmurs of the crowd rising around you once more. You carry with you the echo of his measured voice, the memory of his balanced judgment, and the sense that, even in a time without modern institutions, justice can be delivered with grace. Before the dawn mist has fully lifted, you walk along a narrow dirt track that leads beyond the city's stone walls into fields of barley and olive groves. Here, the world is quieter, only the distant lowing of cattle and the soft rustle of grain in the breeze. At the edge of a small homestead, you pause to find a peasant kneading dough by a hearth built beneath a simple canopy of woven reeds. His hands move with steady repetition, mixing coarse millet flour with water drawn that morning from a shallow well. Each fold and press shapes the mass into a rough loaf, its surface mottled and uneven but born of care and necessity. He pauses and greets you with a nod, clear eyes bright despite lines that speak of sun and wind and worry. You sit on a low stump, feeling its rough surface through the thin fabric of your tunic, and watch as he rises to tend the fire. He splits a small branch for kindling, speaking softly as he works. His voice is warm, resonant, like earth turning under plow. He describes the dawn ritual of the farm, that quiet moment when the world is neither night nor day, when the dew still clings to barley stalks like jewels and the air tastes of cold stone and promise. You inhale deeply, tasting the morning. On his words, and imagine the fields stretching toward a silver horizon. He leads you into the field, where rows of barley stand shoulder height, bending under the gentle weight of their own grain. You touch a stalk and feel its ribbed surface beneath your fingers. He explains how each ear must be watched for rust and pests, how every husk, when threshed, becomes both sustenance and seed for next year. He points to a cluster of sickly plants, their leaves curling and yellowing. He plucks an ear and crushes it between thumb and forefinger, examining its color and scent. You sense his tension in that moment, how failure in one season can ripple through a family's future, turning hunger into desperation. Returning to the homestead, he shows you the olive press, two massive stones powered by a wooden lever. You help guide the lever downward, feeling the strain in your arms as the stones grind olives into bitter paste. The oil runs into a trough lined with straw, its first drops dark green and pungent. He catches a drop on his fingertip and offers it to you. You taste its sharp heat, the dense flavor of sun and earth, and feel the warmth seep through your chest. Between tasks, his wife emerges from the shaded doorway carrying a basket of figs and goat cheese. She smiles, a simple gesture that speaks of shared hardship and quiet joy. They break bread together, tearing off chunks of the millet loaf, spreading cheese, and offering each other figs rich with summer sweetness. You eat with them. The flavors, mingling in your mouth, the simplicity of the meal weaving solidarity into your bones. As the sun climbs, they pause at a small shrine built beside the well. An earthenware cup stands on a stone plinth, filled with water and adorned with sprigs of laurel. The peasant dips his hand into the water, sprinkles a few drops at the base of the shrine, and murmurs a blessing for the land. His wife presses, her palm to her heart, eyes closed, as if tasting the prayer on her lips. You feel a reverence in that moment, a reminder that even the simplest lives are bound by gratitude and hope. Later, a messenger arrives on a donkey, bearing news from the city. A friend is ill, taxes are due, a neighbor's child has fallen from a roof. Each message ripples through the homestead, turning quiet rhythms into urgent concern. The peasant folds his brow, runs a hand through sweat-damp hair, and nods to himself. He thanks the messenger, offers him bread and cheese, and sends him on, his way with a handful of dried figs tucked into his satchel. You observe how he carries each piece of news with measured calm, as if knowing that worry accomplishes nothing. He places the figs in a clay jar, seals it with wax, and sets it aside, for sharing or for bargaining should hard times deepen. He retrieves a simple stylus and wooden tablet, scribbling numbers and names with a precise hand. You watch those. Marks take shape. Figures etched into clay, each one a testament to survival, to balance between labor and expense. As afternoon wanes, they walk together to the furthest field. She gathers herbs, wild fennel and mint, to carry back for cooking and for healing poultices. He checks the water channel, adjusting small dams of clay and straw so that moisture reaches every furrow. You help lift a bucket of water, pouring it slowly at the base of parched stalks. The plants drink greedily, their leaves lifting toward the sky. In that act, you feel the promise of renewal, the cycle of life and death woven through grain and olive. At dusk, you return to the homestead's hearth. The peasant's daughter, slender and shy, greets you with a rush of words, her hands twisting a length of yarn into a small braid. She tells you of her dreams, to weave cloth as fine as her mother's, to visit the city beyond the walls, to learn letters and numbers. He listens quietly, pride softening his features, then squeezes her shoulder with gentle strength. In that gesture, you perceive the bond that holds them, a tapestry of love, labor, and aspiration. As night falls, you stand again by the shrine. The lantern glows softly, casting long shadows across earth and stone. The peasant and his wife kneel, in silent thanks for the day's gifts: grain, oil, water, safety. You join them, placing your hand on the cool cup of water, offering your own silent prayer in the gentle hush. And in that twilight reverence you understand that their life, rooted in soil and sweat, is held together by rituals and relationships as intricate and vital as any city's marble facade. You carry their tale with you, an echo of endurance, of humble grace, of a hearth that glows brightest where labor and love meet. Before the sun has climbed to its zenith, you find yourself following a narrow lane lined with wooden stalls, where the air is already humid with the scent of spices and the echo of traders' calls. Here dwells the merchant, a figure half-rooted in the earth of his home and half-tethered to the far-flung reaches of empire. His wares glint under oil lamps, strings of amber beads from the Baltic, jars of garum whispered to be brewed in Iberia, lengths of silk that shimmer like moonlight from the east. You hear him before you see him, the soft rattle of coins at his belt, the careful tap of a scales pan, the hushed negotiations rising like incense among the stalls. You follow his steps as he moves from table to table, voice low but confident, weighing each coin in his palm before offering goods or a change. A customer approaches, a soldier newly paid, his muscle-bound arm glistening with sweat after patrol. The merchant greets him by name, recalling the exact price paid weeks before, and draws forth a length of wool dyed in deep indigo. He rolls, the fabric between fingertips, explaining how the dye comes from a rare shellfish harvested at dawn, how each bolt was washed in spring water, and how the price, though higher, reflects its lasting vibrancy. The soldier nods, impressed, and the merchant wraps the bolt in waxed cloth, tying it with a thin leather cord. At midday, when the city's center hums with the clash of iron and the thud of carts, the merchant retreats to a small back room partitioned off with hanging tapestry. Here lies his ledger, wooden tablets inscribed with charcoal, each line a record of credit and debt, of shipments pending and sums collected. You watch his hand move steadily, tracing columns of figures and names. A freedman arrives with news of a caravan delayed by bandits. The merchant listens, nods, and makes a swift notation, then sends the freedman on with coin to smooth the path ahead. You sense his mind working like a loom, weaving threads of risk and reward into a tapestry both delicate and durable. He emerges again at the stall, where a group of women gathers to inspect small glass vials of perfumes imported from Alexandria. They bring their own flasks, seeking to fill them with scents of myrrh and cinnamon. The merchant lifts each vial gently, guiding the women's hands over the smooth glass necks, cautioning them not to let a single drop spill, for precious drops can mean lost profit. He measures the perfume with a tiny ladle, letting the fragrant liquid settle before pressing a cork and wrapping the vial in a scrap of linen. You inhale its sweetness, catching a hint of the desert's deep heat and distant caravans threading through sand. As afternoon lingers, he repacks his stock, chanting softly a litany taught by his father, a prayer for prosperous voyages, for safe harbor, for faithful partners. He offers you a seat on a low stool and pours wine diluted with water into a chipped cup. You sip, tasting a blend that is neither sharp nor sweet, but balanced, like his approach to business, always tempered, never rushed. He speaks of the ebb and flow of commerce, of goods that arrive in abundance only to be scarce the next season, of relationships built on trust as much as on coin. He reminds you that a merchant's greatest asset is reputation, carried on tongues of customers and whispered along trade routes. Late in the day, as shadows lengthen across the stones, he closes deals with an itinerant scribe who promises new clients, and with a grain supplier arranging delivery from the fields. He counts his earnings by candlelight, each coin ringing with the day's successes and failures. You notice how his fingers linger on a particular denarius, scarcely worn, its emperor's portrait still sharp, before slipping it into a leather pouch. He pockets the pouch and lingers a moment in the fading glow, eyes distant as if weighing the future against the past. Finally, he sweeps away scraps of parchment and bits of broken pottery from his stall, rolls up his tapestry screen, and extinguishes the lamps one by one. You walk beside him through quiet alleys, the hum of the marketplace replaced by the soft clatter of your sandals. He pauses at a small shrine of Mercury, god of commerce, and offers a silent prayer, touching the god's foot with reverence. His business is done, but his day is not yet over. At home, he will dine with his family, children clamoring for stories of cities beyond Rome, a wife arranging clay dishes of olives and cheese. He will laugh softly, unburdening the day's calculations, for a moment, and breathe the comfort of hearth. You sense that in his world of exchange, the true currency is connection, between stranger and seller, between buyer and product, between heart and hearth. And as you bid him farewell, you carry with you the pulse of his trade, the careful weighing of lead and promise, the scent of distant spices lingering on linen, the quiet faith that profit and peril walk hand in hand down every road. You find the traveler perched on a low wall just beyond the forum, his cloak threadbare but still bearing the faded pattern of distant provinces. His eyes, shadowed by weariness, flicker with both relief and hesitation as he catches your gaze. In his hand he holds a small pouch of dried figs, a meager comfort from the road. He beckons you closer with a silent nod, as though the weight of his journey is too heavy to bear alone. He begins not with grand tales of conquest or discovery, but with a quiet admission that the world beyond Rome's walls is vast and beautiful, and altogether merciless. His voice is hushed, as if louder speech would shatter the fragile truth he carries. He speaks of deserts that stretch like seas of dust, where the sun bleeds gold across empty horizons and the nights freeze the marrow, of mountains whose peaks pierce the sky, where air thins and hearts hammer with each breath, of verdant forests, tangled with roots and thorns, hiding beasts both wondrous and cruel. Yet it is not the landscapes that haunt him most, but the faces he has met. Faces twisted by trust and betrayal, friendship and greed. He tells of a caravan of merchants in Syria who welcomed him with laughter and roasted lamb beneath date palms, then abandoned him when bandits drew steel beneath the stars. He speaks of a captain on the sea who traded safe passage for his only cloak, leaving him shivering on a wharf at sunrise. He recounts the warmth of an inn in Gaul, where a child pressed a bowl of stew into his hands, only for the keeper to demand double the coin when he awoke. Each confession seems to strip him raw, and you feel the tremor in his voice as he admits to small betrayals of his own, how he sold another traveler's goods to pay for his lodging, how he lied about his destination to spare a companion's pride, how he once prayed to Mercury for luck and then spat upon the god's statue when fortune turned foul. He leans forward, eyes glistening, and confesses that he fears he has become hollow, an echo of survival rather than a man shaped by purpose. You press your hand to his shoulder, steadying him with a touch that speaks of understanding rather than judgment. The figs in his pouch rustle as he lifts one, offering it to you with a trembling hand. You break it open, its fleshy sweetness spilling onto your palm, and you taste the sun of 1,000 orchards, the patient care of farmers who coaxed it from the branch. He watches you silently, as if the simple act of sharing food might absolve him of some hidden guilt. He looks up then, the corners of his mouth quivering into a small, wry smile. He admits that it was not only the world's cruelty that changed him, but also its unexpected kindness. The hands that guided him through storms, the strangers who shared their hearths and their laughter, the glint of coin pressed into calloused palms without question. "I am both broken and rebuilt," he whispers, voice barely more than wind. "I do not know if I am better or worse, only that I am different." A bell tolls in the distance, marking the hour. The traveler rises, brushing dust from his cloak. He thanks you with a nod that carries more weight than words. He slings the pouch of figs onto his shoulder, his silhouette framed against the marbled columns as though caught between two worlds. You offer him a portion of your water, which he accepts with a nod of gratitude that lights his tired eyes. As he walks away, you realize that his confession is not a burden, but a gift, an unguarded glimpse into a soul shaped by horizons and hardships. You sense that he wears his stories like a tapestry of scars and stitches, each thread a testament to both loss and resilience. And in the hush that follows his departure, you carry with you the echo of his journey, its trials and its mercies, threaded into your own unfolding story in this ancient, living city. In a quiet corner of the marketplace between sacks of grain and battered amphorae, a small crowd gathers, murmuring in soft laughter. They stand around a low stone table where a man named Quintus, once a respected clerk in the forum, now presents himself in a state of sheepish apology and tangle. He wears a tunic that is far too tight at the waist, its linen seams biting into his flesh, and his cheeks glow the color of ripened olives. You approach, curious, and hear the tale beginning in his own voice, whispered, hesitant, yet unable to conceal its dramatic flourish. Only yesterday, he explains, he was tasked with carrying an official scroll from the magistrate's chambers to the governor's villa. The scroll, bound in red ribbon, contained delicate directives regarding the distribution of grain to the city's poor. It was an honor, a responsibility entrusted to him because of his steadiness and integrity. He set out at dawn, stepping lightly on the still cool stones, cradling the scroll against his chest like a small, precious child. His path took him past the latrines, where a queue of citizens waited with the patience of winter's hush. Unseen, he parked the scroll atop a nearby bench, intending only to duck inside for a moment's relief. He assured himself, "I will be but a minute." The magistrate's words are sealed in wax. No one will mistake this ribboned parchment for anything else. But as he entered the dim latrine, the strange hush of nervous anticipation seized him. The chamber pots and stone seats loomed like silent spectators. He found no privacy, only a row of polished stone slabs with shallow troughs beneath. Penitent souls passed by, each one wary and resigned to the ritual. Clutching his cloak, he crouched at the far end, keeping his eyes cast downward, praying for swift release. When he rose again, relieved and buoyed by hope, he turned for the scroll, only to discover it gone. A hysteria bloomed in his chest as if someone had snatched the very heart from his body. In its place lay a rolled mat of straw, damp and heavy. He unrolled it in trembling fingers but found no parchment within. Panic drove him from the latrine in a blur, cloak swirling, feet pounding the stones as he searched each bench, each step. The crowd outside the public baths joined him. Sailors on shore leave, women returning from washwater, children clutching sweet pastries. They formed a human tide, carrying rumors that the scroll had been mistaken for old paper and used to light the bathhouse fire, that it had fluttered away like an unbound pamphlet, that a mischievous boy had traded it for figs. Quintus's face flushed hotter than the roasting coals, and you see the mortification in his downcast eyes. Hours passed as he retraced every inch of pavement, beseeching strangers, offering coins for information, yet all led to dead ends. At sunset, defeated, he returned to the forum to admit his failure. The governor, draped in a white toga, rose to receive him. Quintus knelt, head bowed deep enough to touch the marble floor, expecting reproach, exile, even a lash. But the governor, with a slow, half-amused smile, produced the scroll. Intact, its ribbon still bright, holding it aloft like a prize. The magistrate had discovered it the moment he arrived, its ribbon glimmering from the bench beneath the gubernatorial feet. He had recognized his own handwriting, retrieved it before anyone noticed, then laid it aside, waiting for Quintus to confess. When the clerk appeared in trembling apology, the magistrate bade him rise, patted him on the shoulder, and whispered, "Let this teach you caution, but not fear. Even the scroll needs its rest." Now Quintus stands at the table, unrolling the scroll once more in front of the chuckling crowd, offering to read its contents to anyone who will listen. He bows deeply, cheeks still pink, and proclaims that he will never again trust even his own pockets. The people laugh softly, forgiving the clerk's folly, for they know that embarrassment can be as human as bread and water. You step back, carrying with you the lesson of his absurd morning, that even in a city governed by laws and order, the smallest misstep can become legend. That laughter, offered in kindness, can soften the sharpest shame, and that sometimes a powerful official's gentle act of mercy can turn a clerk's humiliation into a story told beneath oil lamps for generations to come. You wake before the sun has fully stained the sky, body still heavy with sleep, senses alert to the faintest shifts in the air. The straw mattress beneath you feels cool and uneven, each handful of stuffing pressing against your skin like small reminders of where you lie. Your blanket, rough woven wool, rests in gentle folds around your shoulders, its weight both comforting and insistent. You lift your head slowly, tasting the chill that drifts through the crack beneath the shuttered window. The world is hushed, suspended between night's last breath and day's first stir. Through the narrow opening in the shutter, you glimpse a pale sliver of dawn, an uncertain promise of light yet to come. You inhale, drawing in the mingled scents of damp earth and embers, of herbs hung to dry above the hearth, of yesterday's oil lamp smoke that lingers in every corner. The air feels alive, waiting for your first movement, as though the city itself holds its breath until you stir. Your hand reaches for the clay water jug resting on the floor. You lift it with care, sensing its rounded belly filled with cool water drawn from the public fountain. The clay press against your fingers, is smooth, cool, and you pour a trickle into a shallow basin. The water falls in a thin arc, each drop a quiet note that breaks the hush. You cup your hands and lift the water to your face, letting it splash against your skin. The cold kisses your cheeks, wakes your senses, and you feel the night's heaviness begin to dissolve into the morning's clarity. You stand, bare feet touching the cold stone floor. Each step is deliberate. You do not rush. You move as though carried by the slow rhythm of the city's heartbeat. The hearth's embers provide the only glow, a soft orange pulse beneath gray ash. You reach a worn stick and stir, coaxing the embers back to life. A small flame flares, and you breathe in its warmth, feeling it chase away the last of the chill that clung to your muscles. On a low shelf lies a cake of ash soap and a frayed cloth strip. You rub the soap between your palms until it foams slightly, then scrub your hands and forearms, ritual cleansing for the day ahead. You rinse with care, watching the water swirl and cloud, taking yesterday's dust and sweat with it. You leave the cloth draped over your shoulder, its damp weight a reminder of slow tasks yet to come. Nearby, your tunic and shawl lie folded on a stool, their folds softened by use. You pull the tunic over your head, the wool rubbing against damp skin and settling around your body. You wrap the shawl across your shoulders, tugging it straight, feeling its warmth gather at your chest and back. You smooth its edge gently, breath quiet, aware that each layer of cloth shapes how the world perceives you and how you inhabit this ancient place. The alley outside is still dim, but you open the door and step onto uneven stones warmed faintly by the night's residual heat. You pause at the threshold, closing your eyes to the gray hush, listening for distant stirrings. A rooster's lone crow echoes like a muted call to action. A dog shifts in its sleep, muscles tightening beneath coarse fur. Somewhere, a woman clears a yard with bundled twigs, each sweep sending a small plume of dust afloat. You breathe deeply, tasting the first breath of morning in ancient Rome, its promise of labor, of ritual, of communion. You feel the dust of countless souls beneath your sandals, the echo of footsteps that came before you. You sense that the city wakes not for itself, but for each individual who steps into its motion. You step forward, cloak brushing walls scored. Buy time and feel the slow current of the day begin to carry you along its gentle course. You leave the hush of your doorway and step into the alley's muted bustle. The air feels crisp, breathing life into your lungs as you move among figures already at their tasks. To your left, a laundress dips a cloth into a wooden trough of water drawn just moments ago. She raises it, wrings it with deliberate care, and lays it across a railing where droplets catch the gray light. You feel the rhythm of her motion, the tug, the twist, the release, and in that cadence, your own body remembers the tasks that bind labor to dawn. A baker emerges, carrying a heavy basket of dough risen overnight beside the warm hearth. He sets it upon a low table, and with flour-dusted hands he kneads, pressing and folding until the dough yields and springs back. You approach and feel the faint warmth radiating from his table. He shares a nod, as if acknowledging a companion in the sacred art of sustenance. You breathe in the yeasty scent, close your eyes and taste the promise of crisp crust and soft crumb, imagining the wood-fired oven that will transform emptiness into fullness. Nearby, a mason mixes mortar in a shallow stone basin, dust rising around him like a gentle fog. He measures sand and lime with practiced eyes, adding water in small streams until the mixture thickens to the perfect consistency. Each scoop he spreads between granite blocks, pressing stone to stone. You kneel beside him, pressing your palm into the rough block, feeling the solidity beneath your touch. You help guide the mortar into a narrow seam, then step back to let the mason test its hold. In each joint, you sense the promise of walls standing firm against time and tide. As you wander further, you encounter a group of potters shaping clay on a low wheel, their feet pumping in slow circles. The vessel on the wheel grows under their palms. Walls rise, lips flare, curves tighten. You wet your fingers in a basin, let a trail of water smooth a tiny ridge on the pot's side, and marvel at how wet earth can become both vessel and art. The potter's eyes meet yours, and he offers a fleeting smile, a silent acknowledgement that creation is the heartbeat of the city. The sun climbs, and at the fountain you pause to refill your jar. The water leaps from the spout in a smooth arc, cold against the clay, bright as a jewel. A merchant's clerk stands nearby, tallying receipts on a wax tablet, stylus poised between fingers. He greets you with a brief nod, continues his careful incisions, and you sense in his gaze both concentration and trust. You taste a drop of water on your tongue, pure, unadorned, and feel its simplicity anchor you to this moment. A child darts past, carrying a small basket of eggs balanced on a cloth. You catch her eye and lower your voice to a soft warning. Mind the stones. She grins, clutching the basket tighter, and you feel the warmth of her laughter woven into the day's first tasks. Even their play is part of the city's work, each small footstep a thread in labor's tapestry. By mid-morning, the city hums with purpose. The scent of fresh bread mingles with lime and clay. The echo of hammer and wheel blends with the splash of water and the murmur of voices. You move among these currents, lending your hands to chores both simple and essential, sweeping thresholds, carrying bundles of kindling, gathering fallen olives from the courtyard. Each task you undertake is not separate, but part of a grand design, each motion a note in the symphony of dawn labor. And as the sun rises higher, you pause once more to feel the stones warmed underfoot, the slight sheen of sweat on your temples, the soft ache that blooms in your limbs. You belong to this city's morning, woven into its busy pulse, each heartbeat carried forward by hands and feet and breath. In this waking labor, you find yourself fully present, alive to the world's subtle details, rooted in the shared work that sustains both body and soul. As the sun reaches its highest arc, the city's pulse shifts from labor to nourishment. You feel it in the way the air grows warmer, carrying hints of bread baking and spiced meats roasting in distant kitchens. The midday meal is less a grand feast than a necessary pause, a moment to restore strength before the afternoon's tasks. Resume. You make your way to a familiar courtyard shaded by tangled vines, where rough benches and low tables offer respite from the glare of noon. Here you find a shallow bowl of pottage waiting, its surface mottled with lentils and small bits of dried fish. The steam rises in soft wisps, carrying the faint saltiness of the sea and the earthy sweetness of overripe grapes pressed into vinegar. You lift the bowl in both hands and breathe in its warmth, feeling the heat seep through the clay and into your palms. You bring a spoon carved from wood to your lips and taste. The grains are tender yet toothsome, the fish flakes lending a whisper of brine. Each spoonful grounds you in the present, reminding you that even the simplest meal is an act of grace. Beside you, a neighbor offers a piece of barley flatbread. Its surface is coarse, dotted with stray grains that crunch between your teeth. You break off a strip and dip it into the pottage, watching the broth cling to the edges before slipping into your mouth. There is no hurry in eating. You chew slowly, each motion deliberate, letting the flavors unfold in layers. You feel the dryness of the bread yield to the soup's warmth, the textures merging into a single comfort. A clay cup holds water mixed with a dash of wine. You raise it to your lips, letting the liquid wash across your tongue. Its sharpness is tempered by the water, leaving a gentle warmth at the back of your throat. You swallow and close your eyes for a moment, tasting the midday air, sun on stone, distant laughter, the perfumed drift of crushed herbs. Children drift through the courtyard, calling softly for scraps of bread or bits of cheese. You tear off a small piece of flatbread and press it into a child's hand, feeling their small fingers close around it. The gratitude in their eyes is silent yet shining, and you sense how this shared moment knits the community together. Even as each person tends to their own need, the act of feeding another becomes a gesture of quiet solidarity. A merchant's apprentice passes with skewers of grilled fish, the faint smoke curling upward like a promise. You catch the scent and lift an eyebrow in anticipation. You purchase a small piece, its flesh flaking gently under the weight of your fingers. You taste the smoky sweetness, and for a moment you imagine yourself aboard a ship cresting waves on its way from a distant shore. The memory lingers, folded into the midday stillness. Around you, conversations hum in soft tones. Voices speak of fields that need tending, of wool that must be spun, of debts to be paid. No one speaks above the others. There is a shared understanding that this time is sacred. You lean back, resting your shoulders against the cool wall, and let your breath slow. You feel the pull of sleep, that gentle heaviness that arrives after eating, an invitation to dream for a moment, yet you do not drift away. You remain present to the small details. The way a vine leaf shivers in the breeze, the pattern of light and shadow on the flagstones, the steady drip of water from a clay amphora. You trace these moments like beads on a string, holding them close, knowing that they are the threads of ordinary life. When you finish, you rise with deliberate care. You rake your bowl with a piece of bread, ensuring no morsel remains. You hand it to a child who takes it gratefully. You rinse your cup in the basin at the courtyard's edge, watching the water swirl away like yesterday's dust. You fold your hands and give silent thanks for this midday pause, this gentle interlude of nourishment, connection, and stillness, before the city's current carries you onward once more. The sun has begun its slow descent, softening its glare into a mellow glow that spills across walls like spilled honey. You step back into the alley where labor still hums, but now with a gentler rhythm. The midday heat lingers in sun-warmed stones, radiating upward in faint waves that caress your skin. Your first task is to fetch water for the late afternoon wash. You lift your clay jug and walk to the fountain, sandals whispering against cobblestones. As you fill the vessel, the water splashes in quiet arcs, each drop a small note in the courtyard's lullaby. You let the cool liquid wash across your hands and forearms, feeling its clarity chase away the residue of sweat and dust. You carry the jug home, careful not to spill, balancing its rounded weight against your hip. Back in your courtyard, you tend the herbs that cling to a corner of earth. You pinch the tips of mint and rosemary, releasing their perfumes into the warm air. The leaves yield under your fingertips, their oils misting the air with freshness. You drop the sprigs into a clay bowl and gently crush them, threads of green and silver swirling with fragrant promise. This afternoon's ritual will be simple, a fragrant rinse to soothe skin and spirit before evening's rest. A neighbor calls from across the way, inviting you to join a quiet game near the steps of a shuttered shop. You wander over and find 3 stones laid in a rough circle. A group sits in a low ring, tossing small knuckle bones and pebbles, each toss soft as a bird's wing beat. You slip into the circle, fingers brushing warm stone, and pick up a set of bones. You toss them lightly, counting matches with gentle excitement. Laughter drifts around you, not loud, but bright, like sunlight dancing through leaves. The game is simple, its stakes small, yet in those moments of shared attention, you feel a lightness spread through your chest. Later, you return to the hearth to prepare a small snack of olives and cheese for your evening company. You slice the cheese with a careful hand, each wedge soft and yielding, its aroma muskier than you recall. You pop an olive from a ceramic bowl, its flesh plumping on your tongue with brine and late sun. You arrange the morsels on a flat platter, line them with fresh herb sprigs, and breathe in their mingled scents, a quiet feast for senses grown accustomed to necessity. As the shadows lengthen, you lean against a doorway to watch the world drift by. Children dart through alleys chasing one another's laughter. A potter carries a laden tray of painted cups to her workshop. A man sweeps his threshold one last time before nightfall. You inhale the evening's first breeze, tasting its cool promise, and feel the day's weight soften in your shoulders. You wander toward a small shrine tucked beneath an arch, where a single oil lamp flickers beside the carved figure of a household deity. You pause, dipping your fingers in a bowl of water to sprinkle a few drops at the shrine's base. The coolness whispers across your skin, carrying both gratitude and the quiet intention to protect this home through the dark hours ahead. Finally, you settle on a low bench beneath a vine-draped trellis, sipping the dregs of diluted wine from a clay cup. The liquid warms your chest, and you close your eyes to listen to the evening chorus. The rustle of leaves, the distant bark of a dog, the soft sigh of a cart turning a corner. Your breath slows to match that chorus, each inhale a thread in the tapestry of dusk. In this gentle lull between work and rest, you discover a hidden truth, that even within labor lies leisure, and within routine, beauty. Every small motion, tending herbs, tossing stones, offering water, is both task and meditation. And as you linger in this half-light, you carry the day's simple joys with you, ready to cross into evening's hush on a tide of calm contentment. The sun slips beneath the rooftops, painting the sky in muted shades of rose and lavender. You stand at your doorway and watch the horizon glow before it fades into soft dusk. The air cools gently, carrying the distant murmur of laughter and footsteps winding down their day. This is the quiet hour, when the bustle of labor yields to the hush of rest, and the world seems to exhale along with you. You light a small oil lamp and place it on the low table beside your hearth. Its wick catches quickly, sending a tender flame that flickers against the soot-darkened walls. The lamp's glow is intimate, warm as a whispered secret. Shadows dance and stretch across the room, stretching toward corners where dust motes float, like drifting stars. You feel the day's weight settle into a comfortable stillness around you. Outside, someone closes their shutters with a soft thud. A child's cry, soon hushed by a mother's gentle coo, drifts from a nearby window. You inhale the evening air through the open doorway, cool, scented faintly of cypress and damp stone, and let it fill your lungs. You draw the shawl tighter around your shoulders, its wool rough but reassuring against your skin. By the hearth, you find the scraps of afternoon's olives and cheese, now softened by room warmth. You nibble a small piece, the flavors mellow, but still distinct, as if the sun itself has ripened them one last time. You wash them down with a sip of water, then set the cup aside and allow your senses to rest on the simple pleasure of stillness. A soft breeze stirs the hanging herbs above. The hearth, rosemary, thyme, a sprig of lavender saved from midsummer. Their fragrance drifts down in lazy spirals, mingling with the lamp's smoke. You close your eyes and breathe deeply, letting the scents carry you away from thought and into sensation. There is no hurry here, no tomorrow's chores clamoring at your mind, only the gentle now. You rise and move to the small altar in the corner, where a few grains of barley and a sprig of laurel rest on a stone shelf. You offer a silent word of thanks for the day's gifts, bread earned, labor shared, roof and hearth. You touch each offering with reverence, pausing as though greeting old friends, then step back as the lamplight flickers across the grains like tiny suns. The city beyond your walls dims into quiet. Torches gutter in the streets. The echo of carts becomes distant drumbeats. You listen for the night's early chorus, the rustle of an owl's wings, the sigh of wind through shutter cracks, the gentle creak of a door settling into place. Each Sound is a lullaby, coaxing your muscles to release tension, your mind to untether from daytime cares. You walk once more to the water basin, pressing the cool stone as you refill your cup. The water drips in measured drops, each one a soft metronome marking time's gentle ending. You touch the water to your face, the coolness a final blessing before rest. Returning to your straw mattress, you smooth the blanket around you and slide beneath its coarse folds. The straw shifts softly under you, its unevenness a cradle rather than a cage. You arrange the cloth roll beneath your head, feeling its support as you settle. The lamp's glow softens in your vision, its edges blurring, as your eyelids grow heavy. In the hush before sleep, you feel the slow pulse of your heartbeat, in time with the city's own. You breathe deep, and the lamp flickers once more, then again, as if bowing to your rest. You recall the day's moments, labor and laughter, breath and blessing, scent and warmth, as threads woven into a tapestry that now rests under your skin. Your body grows heavy. Your breathing slows. The room grows darker as the lamp's flame dips low. Outside, the night deepens, enfolding the city in velvet quiet. And there, in that gentle valley between wakefulness and dream, you let go. You drift on the steady current of your own breath, carried into sleep by the soft rhythms of an ancient world. The ancient city awoke with the first breath of light, its stones warmed by dawn and alive with the measured steps of its people. Today, your world stirs with mechanical urgency. A digital alarm shatters the quiet, the kettle whistles for attention, screens glow in every corner. Back then, the morning belonged to the rising sun and to bodies that moved in harmony with its path. You rose because light and duty beckoned, not because a clock demanded it. In ancient Rome, water was drawn by hand from fountains or wells, each jug a reminder that every drop was earned. Now, water flows from taps with a twist of the wrist, its journey silent, hidden behind walls. You seldom feel its weight in your hands, its path from reservoir to faucet a mystery. There was no waste then. Each bucket measured, each cup returned to earth. Today, you may leave taps running, unaware of the river's slow slide into sea, of underground aquifers drained by unseen neglect. Meals unfolded slowly, the baking of bread and the stirring of porridge a ritual woven into time itself. You ate, without hurry, chewing each morsel until it offered its full comfort. Now, meals can be reheated in seconds, eaten on the move, consumed with distracted swipes and glances. Flavors persist, but intimacy fades, swallowed in fragments while screens whisper elsewhere. Then the act of eating held you present. Now it often pulls you away. Labor in ancient Rome was physical communion, hands shaping clay, feet pumping millstones, backs kneading dough, skin tasting sun. Work and body were bound in a living partnership. In your world, work often exists in digital realms, fingers dancing over keys, eyes skimming backlit text. You cannot feel the clay or taste the sun. Your body remains seated, supported by cushions, sheltered by climate control. You gain efficiency but lose the grounding that comes from Earth's touch. Illness was met with herbs and hands, with prayers whispered at shrines. Healing was intimate, tactile, a shared act between healer and patient. Now you consult screens, swipe for symptoms, swallow pills prescribed across distances. You benefit from powerful medicine and technology, yet the bedside touch can feel distant, replaced by sterile walls and clinical routines. Night fell as a natural lull, as torches guttered and embers cooled. Sleep arrived when bodies tired and candles waned. Today, you battle artificial lights and endless notifications. You switch off devices hoping for rest, only to find mind and heart buzzing with information. The ancient world closed its shutters to nightfall. Yours often invites light in, delaying the gentle surrender to sleep. And yet, each era offers its own blessings. You live with warmth, safety, and technologies that bring worlds to your fingertips. They are gifts hard-won by centuries of progress. But in the quiet moments, consider the simplicity that once embraced dawn and dusk, body and earth, neighbor and hearth. Reflect on what you might reclaim: patience in drinking water, reverence in tasting bread, presence in the ritual of rising with the sun. In these small gestures, the past and the present meet, and perhaps you find a softer path between two worlds. You carry the warmth of ancient hearths within you as you step back into your modern life. You have comforts they could not imagine: instant light at the flick of a switch, heat that rises with a tap, water that flows endlessly at your command. Medicine so precise that fevers fade with a pill. Pain is soothed by a single dose. Surgery, guided by machines that peer inside you without a single cut. You travel across continents in hours, summon information in seconds, speak with voices carried by invisible waves, and yet you sense what you have traded. The immediacy of sunrise and sunset, once unmissable, now slips by as you press snooze and scroll through messages. The weight of water in your hands, once grounding, now goes unnoticed as you fill a glass and drink without thought. The labor that bound body to purpose and soil to sustenance has been replaced by screens and schedules, tasks that leave your body still while your mind races. Ancient Rome taught you that every action was anchored in rhythm: drawing water, baking bread, raising walls, a cadence that marked your place in the world. Today, you may feel untethered, moving from app to meeting to commute, never fully present in any one moment. You gain flexibility, choice, the luxury of convenience, but you lose the depth of ritual. Progress brought the eradication of plagues and the conquest of pain. Yet in its wake, fear of illness still lingers in headlines and online threads. You take antibiotics without wonder, yet you rarely pause to acknowledge the centuries of toil that gave them to you. You benefit from sanitation systems that shield you from waste, yet you seldom recall what it meant to carry every burden in your own hands. Freedom has expanded. Voices once silent now speak, travels once impossible now routine, knowledge once hidden now available to any curious mind. But the quiet solidarity forged by shared labor, by living within the same small spaces and relying on each other's skill, has narrowed. You can choose solitude, anonymity, endless distraction. The very tools that connect you also isolate you. In this give and take, balance is possible. You can honor the sacrifices of the past while embracing the gifts of your time. You can pause to feel the sun on your face instead of rushing past. Savor each drink of water as if you have earned it. Turn off notifications long enough to taste silence. You can carry ancient wisdom in small gestures, offering bread to a neighbor, closing your shutters at dusk, breathing with intention at sunrise. By holding both progress and simplicity in your mind, you weave a life that draws strength from what was and what is. In that gentle tension you find a path forward, one that honors the labor of ancestors and the promise of tomorrow, balancing gains and losses with care and compassion. Now, as you drift back to the room that holds your modern world, carry with you the gentle echo of an ancient dawn and dusk. Imagine the soft curve of a clay lamp, its flame mirrored in your own warm breath. Remember the slow turning of the bread dough beneath calloused hands, the hush of water filling a basin drawn from well and fountain alike. Let these images weave through your thoughts like silken threads, binding the present to the past in a quiet tapestry of experience. Rest here, in the comfort of your own bed or couch, and feel the layers of time settle around you. You are both, traveler and witness, standing between two worlds that speak in different rhythms, yet share the same heartbeat of human need. In your mind's eye, see once more the lantern-lit alleyways, the murmured prayers at simple shrines, the shimmer of an olive oil drop on rough bread. Allow these moments to soften the edges of your day, to cradle you in a calm awareness that life need not rush to be full. And now, as your body grows heavy and your breath slows, I invite you to let go of any lingering tension. Breathe in the memory of stone warmed by sunrise, the scent of herbs crushed by patient fingers, the hushed laughter shared around humble hearths. With each exhale, release the noise of notifications and schedules. With each inhale, draw in the timeless peace of simpler rituals, of tasks performed with presence and care. Tomorrow, the world may return to its familiar hurry. Yet within you remains a still point, a place where ancient Rome's dawn can meet, your own. You can rise with intention, pour water with gratitude, chew each bite with full attention. You can carry the wisdom of those who lived without modern conveniences, and let their presence guide your own journey toward gentler living. Now close your eyes. Feel the weight of your blanket or sheet, the softness of your pillow or rolled cloth. Let your mind wander back through the columns and alleys of a world fashioned by stone and sweat, by ritual and community. And as sleep finds you, let it be a continuation of this story, a passage through time that carries you softly into dreams, where past and present coexist in peaceful harmony. Sleep well, and may the whisper of ancient footsteps guide you through the night.